Commissioner Bershauer, can you hear us? I'm just going to keep saying this because I'm not going to sing a song. Who was it? Was Noelle who was just singing when she was testing hers? I mean, we could all sing along. It's getting to be Christmas Carol season.
Can you hear us? We can see you.
Can you hear us singing Deck
You
the
can hear
Halls?
us?
All right.
Oh, look it. That's the new baby.
Truly.
Is that your new sister?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, sorry. I was hoping you let me on early so I could show you Josie. Okay, hang on just a second. Let me fix this.
Is that the internet or your computer? Mm. Oh.
I can't see anything.
Mhm. Chair, it looks like we're already here.
Oh, says you can unmute.
Hmm.
Okay,
Yep.
Does that work?
We can hear you.
Okay, it kept saying the host is not allowing me to unmute, so.
That's Megan for you.
Hi, Megan.
It's really wonderful that Megan has joined us,
Yes.
substituting, as it were, for Carolina and Nicole. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, let me get to my agenda here. Oops. Okay, so I will officially open us up. This is the Yamaha County Board of Commissioners formal informal session for December 22nd, 2022. It is 10:04 in the morning, and Commissioner Starrett, if you could lead us in the flag salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States
of America,
for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty.
justice for all. Okay, item C is our calendar session. Anything to add to our calendar session?
Nothing.
No, Chair.
Great, thank you. Item D is public comment. This time period is reserved for public comment on any topic other than an agenda item, a quasi judicial land use matter, or a topic scheduled for a public hearing. You guys can see better than me if there's anyone there in the audience waiting to give public comment.
It looks like everybody here, Chair, is waiting for agenda items.
Perfect. And I don't see anybody on my end in the virtual audience. Is anybody there waiting? No? Okay. And I don't believe we received any written comment either.
No.
Okay, item E is our department updates. We have nothing today. Item F is our work session. We have nothing on the work session agenda. Item G is our consent agenda. I'm actually going to ask and request that we move this to our January 5th meeting. I have a couple questions I wanted to ask of Ken. and I wasn't able to connect with him. And Ken Huffer as well, and he's out of town. So commissioners, if you're okay with that, I'd like to move that to just January 5th.
Yes, Chair.
Sounds good, Chair.
Great, thank you. Item H is old business. H1 is discussion of Yamhill County economic development options. This was continued from December 15th of 2022. And I believe we left it off last week where we were going to get an update on status of work. And I'm not sure, Justin, if you are available to give an update or if we have one.
Abisha is here, Chair.
Oh, great. Okay. Sorry, I can't see anybody in the audience. So
Would you like Abisha to give us an update on where we're at with?
yes, that would be great. Thank you. Thank you, Abisha.
And then commissioners note that we, Carolina Brooke forwarded a letter from SEDCOR. And I think both from Eric Anderson and from, actually it's just from Eric Anderson. So but
Yes.
we should discuss that too if we
Yes,
can.
absolutely. Thank you. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
Where it says push. Okay.
And then it
Couldn't be,
green.
yeah, couldn't be any easier. Thanks, Megan. Good to see you. Thank you, Chair, Commissioners, and staff. Thanks for letting me come up and speak with you and visit. As Commissioner Kula mentioned, we did submit a letter. I think that was received yesterday afternoon around that time. So just kind of outlining, first of all, clarifying some inaccuracies that were shared at last week's meeting. I'm not suggesting they were intentional inaccuracies, but just making sure there's clarification on the record on some of those points. And essentially letting this board know that we understand that your priorities have shifted, that you are intending to bring a position in-house, and that we will not object to a contract termination. During that time, we will work with county staff to ensure that all county level projects are wrapped up within that termination timeline. And then we will continue to support projects that we have committed ourselves to that extend beyond those timelines in order to ensure that our industry partners and our community partners have continuity of service. They certainly deserve that.
Chair, I have a question. Or you had one. Okay, go ahead.
Uh-oh.
Sorry, I'm trying to mute to make sure there's no background in it, and then I can't unmute. So Commissioner Starrett, you have a question. Go right ahead.
Just a question. So can you clarify, we have a membership, the county has a membership with SEDCOR as a membership entity separate from a contract. Can you tell us what that entails, or maybe I don't have that right?
Yeah, so in the letter that Eric submitted, it does clarify that the county does not have a membership that is separate from the contract. Within the contract are certain provisions. One of them is a county-based membership that is contingent upon the contract. So that said, also in the letter, he informs this group that we are happy to talk to you about what a membership would look like, and create that option if that makes sense for the board, and if we can kind of craft something. We don't currently have that sort of a program.
Okay, I was under the impression that the county had a membership. I know we had discussed that with staff, and that was a separate entity. Maybe there was maybe it was called something different.
And that was one of the points of clarification that we were offering in the letter, is that there is not the county does not currently have a membership with SEDCOR. They have a contract, and within that contract is the provision for a countywide membership. So we don't have a county membership structure. We do contract with the counties that we serve. It looks very different for each county, and we're prepared to talk with this county about what would that look like if you would like to retain a countywide membership, and how do we craft something that meets your needs and expectations. So we're happy to have that conversation going forward, but it is not a separate membership.
Okay.
Okay.
We would be able to have a conversation then about having something separate from the the current scope of work or the current contract and maybe more defined or more limited in terms of working with SEDCOR on a different basis, something that looks different.
Yeah, absolutely, Commissioner Starrett. I mean, we've been saying for the last year and a half, right, since our contract came into question, and we've had a few extensions, that SEDCOR is happy to work with the board to help do the work that basically, first of all, fits our core mission of service and also satisfies the priorities and strategies and goals of this board. And we also have been supportive of the idea of this board bringing economic development in-house. So we have always been open to trying to figure out what works best for everyone. Our main goal is to make sure that our industry partners and our communities are provided with the type of service that they need. So we are more than happy to have those conversations in the future. And we understand that as you go through your strategic planning process, some of those priorities might get clarified, right? I would expect that they would. And so as you come out of that, you might say, okay, here's how we'd like to invest in these different areas. And we are more than open to having those conversations with you.
Great, thank you.
You bet.
That's right. I recall that during the last discussion about project or a contract extension, that I think that when Eric was here,
Right.
he mentioned that he would be happy to help us kind of work through what it looks like to move on to an in-house.
Absolutely. As it was mentioned.
Just see
and-
some value.
Absolutely. And as it was mentioned last week, we did have a contracted agreement to meet in February
Mhm.
to discuss the priorities of this board. We have already shared SEDCOR's strategic planning process, which we completed this year, and that was a part of our previous discussion. That we would meet in February. We would talk about what the future looked like. And if this board determined that SEDCOR's current contract of service no longer met the scope of your needs, that we would support whatever that transition looked like between February and June while we were still on contract. We are a partner in this region, right? So we understand that, again, the scope of work that is currently on contract is not currently the priority of the board, but we also understand that that could look different in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you, Abisha. So do other counties have that separate membership piece in addition to a contract?
No. So we do not, I don't know the specifics of the other two counties, to clarify number amount or anything like that. But what I do know is that we don't have a contract and a membership as separate things, right? We have had a membership type of a relationship with a county previously. But it's either kind of one or the other, right? And we don't have where you might look at our membership structure for business partners. It's very clear, right? Here's the level of investment based on the size of the business, and there's a very clear membership structure. In terms of county relations around what a membership or a contract would look like, that's very specific to that county. It's very one-on-one. So I do not have knowledge of a county having both a membership and a contract that are paid for separately that are running at the same time. Usually a contract allows for a membership, or you would have a membership that looks very different than a contract. So it's one or the other, but I'm not aware of a history of having two at the same time.
Okay. And just for clarification, prior to this 2018 agreement, Yamhill County was not a member, or we did have some type of membership?
To my knowledge, Yamhill County did not have a county level membership, but that was before my time.
Yeah.
And I don't know that I've asked that specific question. We did reference in the letter the position that was discussed last week. Again, AJ Foscoli, when he was working for SEDCOR for 2014 through 2017, this board gave a grant to SEDCOR for the Make It in Yamhill County program, which actually it was a 3-county it was a regional project that was born of the Make It America program. And so this board gave SEDCOR a grant to help fund that work. And so we had a service relationship that was by grant focused on that supply chain solution program titled Make It in the Willamette Valley. So that was the 2014 through 2017. I am not aware of a membership that existed during that time, but that would be something I would have to explore more deeply with our administrative staff. I'm just not aware of that having been in place.
Okay.
It's
And then,
was, and maybe that's what Commissioner Starrett is referring to, but that hasn't been conveyed to me when I've asked these questions.
yeah, and that sounds like maybe where the confusion was is what we had before. And obviously I don't have the background on that. That was before my time too. So, so last week we kind of asked for a status update on, what are those projects? What's out there pending if we are entertaining this idea of ending the contract early or, waiting until even February, or what does that look like?
So Commissioner Bershauer, when I watched last week's meeting, what I understood is that I would be followed up with by you directly and or Ken. And I hadn't heard from anyone since last week, so I wasn't sure what was being asked of us. What we have committed to in the letter that we submitted to you is that we will work with staff between now and the end of our contract, which we believe the position that the board has is to terminate the contract today, right? Which would give us until the end of January to make those transitions with the county, and we're prepared to do that. That would also give us the ability, as you know, we have a confidentiality agreement with our industry partners. I have no intention of presenting in written format or verbal format to this board the specifics about any of those partners or what they're working on that would not already be public knowledge. These are the things that we've made very clear we don't share in public meeting. That information is shared through our liaison via the participation with the SEDCOR board and one-on-one meetings with me. But I am prepared to work with staff directly to talk about some of those specifics so that we ensure that someone is making sure that support is provided ongoing, and we're prepared to meet that timeline.
Okay, so I understood from last week that Justin would follow up since Ken would be out of town, that we would have an update this week. Is that not the case?
No, I'm sorry. I didn't receive that direction. So
I don't,
not-
and I confess that I don't recall that
Yeah.
direction that was to you.
Okay. Well, I think at a very basic level, we have to understand, what's out there. I understand the confidentiality issue, but what's out there that isn't confidential, that if we're making this decision is going to need to be wrapped up in some way. I'm not comfortable doing that without having Ken here. So giving him some time to get up to speed on that when he comes back is more ideal. But I do think that we need to have that information before we're making a decision going forward.
And Chair, just to clarify, are you, I think that Abisha made it pretty clear the limits of what she can share. But she also said that she would, within the month, wrap up their commitments to the clients that are, the business clients that are within the borders of Yamhill County, right? Or who are doing business here. So do you know exactly what you would be asking Ken to bring forward?
Well, yes, we have not voted to terminate the contract yet. So what I'm looking for is what we discussed last week, which is what is the status of the work? Where are we at? So that we can use that as part of our consideration for how we go about making that decision.
I see what you mean.
That was my understanding from last week. Clearly there was miscommunication, and it's difficult with people being gone for the holidays. So
Chair, there are two things though that I can think of that are not with specific businesses that we may be able to get some update on right now, which I can think of the ag industrial exemption and then the CPACE, which I recall we had conversations about. I don't my memory is that we kind of temporarily set aside the ag industrial tax, a temporary tax exemption. But I think I can't recall, I think the CPACE was still live the way that Mount Hood is still technically an active volcano. I'm trying to think of what the analogies are here.
Yeah, so there's a few policy recommendations that SEDCOR has offered to this board, including all of the supporting documentation that might be required in order to implement a program. That is still in front of the board. I believe that staff has everything they need to support the board in making a decision going forward. It's really just the making a decision point.
Okay.
We do have some county level activities. I recall Ken last week asking about the EDAC, the Economic Development Advisory Council, and whether that group would maybe disband or whether they would become an advisory group for this board. I think that's a great question that committee has requested several times to be a part of the strategic planning process for this board. They have been a very devoted group of partners who has participated wholeheartedly in many grant programs, making recommendations for areas of focus for this board. And they certainly have been an amazing support to SEDCOR in this process. I would imagine that they would bring that same value to any internal person. So we're prepared to have those conversations with them and kind of set that up for a potential transition. There are other sort of county partner-based programs that we've been working on. One of them is a program that's about to launch through Business Oregon for brownfield remediation for privately held land. That would be something where we would transition that knowledge base to staff to ensure that, again, whoever takes on this work has access to that information. It will be a short-term program. It is extremely vital for our region. And we would want to make sure that staff is aware of the program, kind of has it in a list in front of them. Most of our projects do include industry partners. That's the work that we do. But we also, as you know, have been supporting the Industry Advisory Committee for the Barbara Roberts Career Technical Education Center in Sheridan. We've been successful at securing many industry donations for the construction of that project, and are currently working on their development board for future donations. So we've been very active in that project. We would encourage the board to continue being supportive of that project as it moves forward. There are a couple of childcare projects and workforce housing projects that, as you know, we have been working on. And as we mentioned in the letter, we would look at each of those projects on a case-by-case basis. There are some that make sense to transition back to the county, and there are some that make sense for us to stay engaged with until a future period in time, because we have made commitments to do that. And regardless, again, of kind of how the contract relationship goes, we will continue to stay committed to those projects. So again, I was not contacted by anyone. I was not, a formal request of information was not made, which makes it hard for me to know how to bring information forward, because I'm not sure exactly what you're looking for or in what way you're seeking information. So I'm happy to, again, follow up with staff and make sure that we do provide that more detailed information and get an understanding of how things are going to move forward.
Thank you, Abisha. Commissioners, any more questions for Abisha?
Here, I have one question. Abisha, thank you for being here with the limited information that you received. It seems like we have a lot of miscommunications going on, but I appreciate you being here, especially in light of the fact that we had a rather difficult conversation last week. One of the things that I've been pretty clear about all along is that I always think, if I'm writing a check with my own money, would I do this? Would I think this was a fiscally responsible thing to do? So I've always wanted to see, we always ask for what's the data, what do we show, what are the receipts that we can say this is something that's worth it? And it's not just with SEDCOR, it's with anything that the county has some buy-in to financially. So one of the questions that I would have at this point has to do with the childcare, because we're discussing a childcare, a contract through the early learning hub, through the CCO, and what that will look like, because there's a large scope and then there's the more limited scope. So I'm wondering if you're working with them and what the childcare or can you share what the childcare projects are so that we can either coalesce or throw in with you to complete those?
Oh, yeah, that's,
Specifically, there's like $2 million.
yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah, more than $2
More
million,
than $2
$2.5 million.
yeah, that's a big question, really, right? Because I have certainly been working with them, especially over the past few years. As you know, I came before this board, gosh, 2 years ago now, and made a recommendation that CARES Act funding be distributed through the CCO to childcare service providers in order to give access to capacity. And they issued those $50,000 grants. I still stand by that. And I think it was appropriate at the time, and it really did help to open up capacity. And now the question is this bigger pot of funds, right? And how is that to be spent? I have been included on those emails and routings. I did not attend the initial set of meetings, in part because I had been working with industry partners who were attending, and I felt that that was more appropriate, was for them to hear from industry directly, and they had that engagement. But I am currently slated to attend their larger meeting that is happening. I forget the date, I apologize, but it's coming up in January, to kind of bring that to close and understand what have they learned so far, and kind of looking at what is that recommendation looking to do. But in terms of specifics about the work that they've been doing, I couldn't give you that. We'd have to get that from them.
So as far as now, let's go back to Project Oasis, because
Mhm.
we worked very closely with them and you and GCI and that whole thing. Sort of a status on that, how it relates to either the work that you're doing or the work that you project to be doing. Are they involved in any way in that body of work?
So Project Oasis is, I mean, it's just an amazing project to watch that family with DCI commit to doing this work against all of the obstacles really that childcare service providers have been facing for years, and we were all just kind of naive to, right? And
We
they
can do
pushed,
this.
yeah,
Yeah.
and they pushed through. And so, as you know, they have opened their first facility in McMinnville. Commissioner Bershauer came out for a tour several weeks ago. I can't remember the specific date, and we were able to visit with them and talk about the success of the scholarship program, which of course was funded through the CARES Act, through this board. Again, we appreciate that support because we were able to use those funds to leverage additional support, which has allowed them to build out this facility and host a very successful scholarship program. They also partnered with Mi Escuelita, which is a 5-star dual language in-home childcare program in Newburgh. They have a couple of locations. And then also to deploy those funds through other Little Bird facilities, such as the Lafayette location. So a couple of different locations throughout the county, ensuring that those funds are kind of more widely dispersed. It has been hugely successful. They still have some funding left that they're issuing through that program, but they would expect beginning of next year, I believe, I'm looking at Commissioner Bershauer for a head nod in memory of our conversation, that they would be looking at expanding, trying to fund an expansion of that scholarship program, and also looking to what they still plan as a second development. That is a very successful project. They continue to move forward. SEDCOR has, I mean, just kind of all the faith that they're going to be able to do those things.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Any more questions for Avishai?
I want to say one more thing regarding childcare. There are other industry partners that have been actively working with childcare service providers for similar solutions. And I have shared with this board, and it is public information through a grant program out of the city of Newburgh, but ADEC has also partnered with a childcare service provider to try to identify future solutions. We also were able to connect the Sheridan School District directly to a childcare service provider who is now taking over the school-based program. As you know, they had to commit quite a bit of CARES Act funding to develop their own childcare program just to keep their staff in place and keep the doors open during COVID. So that's been a very successful program as well.
Thank you.
Nice. It's super helpful. Every time I see a sign for a new childcare provider in the community, I get this like rush of hope.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
Are we done with me?
I think so.
Sounds like it.
I'm a
sounds-
little delayed on my video, so I think so.
Is it,
Sounds
a-
like Chair Bershauer, that your hope is that we hear more from Ken and maybe in conversation with Abisha for the new year. I think that's how we've left it.
is that the next, are those the next steps? Maybe there's more discussion.
Maybe
I'll-
so.
Yeah, I think we need to wait till Ken gets back and then have a discussion about, if there was a termination of a contract, what does that actually look like? And what does that mean for the people that we've served? I would want some more details on that.
Chair, may I please make one more comment? I apologize before I just wanted to say to Commissioner Kula, I believe this is your last meeting,
It
correct?
is,
And I
yeah.
just wanted to say thank you for your service to the county. I particularly appreciated your work during COVID and leading those community-based conversations. They were very effective in assisting in the work that SEDCOR did in helping our state partners to understand the needs that we had, which also assisted us in the success of securing some of those additional funds for business direct grant programs to get the attention around workforce housing and childcare. And so I just wanted to say thank you, of course, for your
Yeah, thank you,
service. I
Chair.
respect anyone who puts themselves in a position of public service. I'm looking at some of those brave folks
Mhm.
behind me here. So
Yeah.
thank you and
Thank you.
best of wishes for your future.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
And
Thanks for participating in this.
you bet.
Thanks, Abisha. We'll
You bet.
talk. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, so commissioners, are we good with that plan? I know there's clearly a lot of frustration that came through in that letter. I think that the feeling may be mutual for some reasons. So I would just like to make sure that we can have a conversation with Ken and Abisha and get some of those things straightened out so that if we make a decision that we know what that actually means, what's the impact of the decision.
Agreed.
That sounds good, Chair.
Thank
And
you.
I found the letter to be very helpful, filling in some of the gaps where I didn't know too.
Okay,
And for clarification, in addition to what things may look like if the contract was to be terminated, you also wanted to be updated on projects as well still, is that correct? That SEDCOR is working on?
right. Because if there was a decision made like that, then we would still have to know the impact on those projects. So it just makes sense to get an update.
Right.
And I think we understand the non-disclosure elements
Mhm.
of business, and that's been one of the reasons why we've appreciated SEDCOR's involvement. But I do believe that to the degree that it is possible to share that with us, we have to remember that this is work that the county paid for. And I think it's important for us to acknowledge that and to get at least some semblance of what's going on, so we can help to address that with or without. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Okay, so let's see. That brings us to item I, which is other business. Item I1 is consideration of acceptance of a sealed bid in the amount of $15,250 for tax lot number R5926000400. And this is regarding the property on Hebo Road. Is that right, Christian?
Yeah, that's correct. This was offered at the auction. There were no bidders at the auction, so we've now received a sealed bid from property owner interested in buying the property at this amount, $15,250.
And was this the property that we discussed? It was months ago, but there was some cleanup issues on it, or there was a home that needed cleanup?
There is a small, like, I don't even know if you would call it a home, more like a shack or an outbuilding that's on the property. But I'm
I can see the
As far as-
overhead video film,
Mhm.
or not, the overhead photos of it that we talked about.
not sure what other sort of cleanup, if there's some sort of DEQ or environmental cleanup, or if it's just, there are some things on the property, but
Okay. My only concern is that the bid was significantly lower than the real market value. The real market value is almost $200,000.
what we received is just above the minimum
Yeah,
amount that we set after the auction.
Whereas,
Yeah, I was
Jody-
surprised by the real market value of it, to be
As Jody
honest.
says in the
Right.
email, I mean, if the board would rather not accept this bid, that's up to the board, and then it would simply remain on the website as available for sale. That might encourage the same individual who submitted this bid to submit a higher bid, or it might, spur someone else to take a look at the property and submit a bid as well. So that's up to the board at this point, if you wanted to accept this and go ahead and sell it, or not accept the bid and see if we can generate any further interest in this parcel.
Chair, I just would like to ask a few questions if I can of council. I always like to look at what's the cost to the county and what costs are we incurring and what's the downside of us hanging on to it. Because if we hang on to it, sometimes we've incurred some costs or some liabilities, and it became easier to just divest ourselves of the property.
And adding to that, I seem to recall in our executive session when we kind of went over some of this, there was some concern about that.
Yeah. Right.
I forgot
So-
that it was with this parcel.
I'm trying to remember the concern beyond what, as you said, the concern that we have with each of these properties, as long as we hold on to them.
I
mean,
think we
I'm
were
just-
concerned about perhaps people occupying
I think that was what it was.
the boundaries of it, and
Yeah.
then we would have to sort of police that, if you will.
Yeah, that's always a possibility. As far as I know, that hasn't happened with this property. But I can confirm with the surveyor, Jason, to see when the last time was he's been out there to see if there's been any activity, but I'm not aware. Jody didn't share any information with me about there being any activity like that before she left, so I'm not aware that it's happening. We can certainly follow up on that and find out.
Wasn't there something prior to that where there was sort of a question about
I thought so.
about
I'm
some
glad you're,
tenant
Yeah.
of someone who was basically staying there?
I don't recall.
maybe this
that,
wasn't the
but-
parcel.
Maybe
but-
this is,
But
it, but you know what I'm talking
I
about.
know what you're talking about, yeah.
Okay,
I think that was the Muddy Valley one.
We have had a couple of properties where that was an issue, and we did remove some tenants from the Muddy Valley property.
Okay.
And we were watching the other property in Willamina on Ash Street that
Yes.
doesn't seem to have any occupants that have come back there either.
Right.
So, but if you'd like, we can set this over until we have a chance to chat. Noelle's out today as well. She may have some additional information. Could update the board the first week in January if you'd like. So that's-
Commissioners, I would prefer that just because it seems quite low, and the one that's coming up later on our agenda is much closer to the real market value, and they actually increased their bid. So it feels really low to me.
It is a fairly remote property. I don't know really how accessible or developable it is, but that may have something to do with the bid that we received. And I hesitate to say this because I'm not sure I'm correct, but I think the bid came in from the neighbor, from the adjacent property
I
owner.
recall that there was
I
some
think so.
interest, when we discussed this, that you had heard interest. In it. Yeah, and I think I recall at the time, again, this was an executive session, but we're talking about the value of it now, was that I think all three of us were like, that seems like a high real market value, but we're not assessors
right. And there
or
was
appraisers.
historic interest from, I believe, the same neighbor
Yeah,
over the years.
I believe that's right.
that's right.
But yeah, if you'd like to hold it over till first week of January, that's totally fine.
So
Okay, and then does that bid just sort of remain active and on the table?
Yeah,
There's
unless
no deadline? Okay,
we inform the bidder that it hasn't formally been rejected unless that's what the board is telling me you'd like to do. It'll stay open, and then if someone else bids, then we could come back to the board with the other bid. If it's decided at the next meeting that you want to reject this bid, then we can certainly let the bidder know at that time.
So does this stay on the website as pending?
My understanding is it's simply on there as an
It's just on there.
available
Mhm.
property for sale, but I can double check that. I haven't looked at the website
Maybe we should
for that
wait
purpose this
and,
morning.
and take a look at what, I mean, if it's considered pending, then this is fine if we set it over. If it's considered, if there's some kind of hold because we have a bid, that we've been in touch with a prospective buyer over. What is the expectation from the prospective buyer at this point? That it's just waiting for final approval, or that it's sort of sale pending?
Oh, like what communication has the person with the bid had with perhaps Jody or Noelle or you?
And I don't know, I don't have the answer to that.
Okay, well, sounds like we would like to set it over to January 5th, if that makes sense.
Yeah, well, yeah, I think that's fine. We'll gather some more information and we'll come back to the board and be prepared to talk about it a little more in a little more detail on the 5th.
Okay, sounds great.
Wonder, and you know, again, I won't be here, but I do wonder whether it might be valuable to have as quick of a look from assessor and tax collector's office as they can do to kind of measure this against their own professional assessment.
Don't they do that when we get some of those statistics, the real market value, and don't they weigh in?
I think these are the values that appear on the roll. The last time it was on the roll. So I suspect that's where those numbers are derived from. So I don't know if they would be able to, or if it would change significantly if they were to go out and do another assessment today. We could certainly, and we've talked about this before, talk to a realtor or some other sort of, real estate expert. If we wanted to have someone go out and do sort of a quick look at the property, give us like a Zillow sort of market value estimate, we could do that. Or I can certainly talk to Derek and see if it might be worth having them go out and take another look at this property too. Happy to do that.
Okay. Commissioner Starrett, does that kind of get at the information you were looking for?
Right. No, the only thing is I'd like to know how long ago was that information logged in, and how long ago was that on the rolls? If it was just a few years or something,
Right,
that would make sense.
My brief recollection of this property is it's one we've had for a while.
Okay.
So I expect that real market value is at least 4 to 5 years old, but I'll confirm with the assessor's
Thank
office.
you.
Okay.
maybe 4 acres of timber on Heva Road is worth more than
Yeah.
our expectations.
Right.
Well, thank you, Christian.
Okay. So we will bring that back up on January 5th. Okay, that brings us to item I2, which is consideration of approval in the matter of approving amendment number 1 to an intergovernmental agreement with the Department of Environmental Quality, Board Order 20-246, and delegating authority to sign. And this is regarding the Newburgh landfill.
We have
Go ahead.
Watkins here if you want to have more information from her, but there's a good memo, I thought, in the packet too.
Mhm.
Oh, great, thank you. It was pretty clear to me, and it seems like a good move, just because we haven't expended that whole 100,000. It looks like we're only at about 30. So if there's more to do, then great, we can take advantage of that.
Thanks, Ashley.
Yeah, well, Chair, I would move that we approve item I2 with thanks to Ashley.
Thank you, and thank you, Ashley. Okay, Commissioner Kula moves approval. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Thank you, motion passes. Okay, item I3, consideration of approval of amendment number 4 to an agreement between Yamhill County and Siemens Industry for modifications to the PLC-VMS system in the Yamhill County Correctional Facility, adding 10 cameras in the not to exceed amount of $69,191 for a total cost of $1,864,601 effective January 1st, 2023 through June 30th of 2023. Commissioners, I will move approval of item I3. Is there further discussion or questions?
No, Chair.
No, Chair.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Thank you, motion passes.
And what a big project, and I'm glad it's still moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, item I4, consideration of approval in the matter of an order authorizing the sale of tax foreclosed property by private sale and ordering distribution of proceeds. This is tax lot number R232501-600. And this is the property that we talked about, I think it was last week, maybe 2 weeks ago now. But I will move approval of item I4. Is there further discussion?
No, Chair.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Thank you. Motion passes. Okay, we are into our public hearing. We have a public hearing today, and this is regarding, this is to receive public testimony regarding the proposed transfer of the Yamhill County Ambulance Service Area number 4, franchise ASA number 4, from the West Valley Fire District, WVFD, to the Confederated Tribes of Grand Ronde, CTGR, effective January 1st, 2023. So I will open the hearing, and is there anyone in the audience that would like to offer public testimony?
We have our chiefs here.
Welcome, chiefs.
You have folks in the audience, so
Chief Warden.
Good morning.
Good to see you.
Oh, yeah.
You have, I've read the proposed board order and the language in it. Confederated Tribes of Grand Ronde has taken on the responsibilities for firefighting and EMS from the West Valley Fire District under contract. We are going into a 5-year renewable contract effective January 1st. That contract is separate from the ambulance service area, specifically for the reason that we can't contract with West Valley. That's a Board of Commissioners ambulance service function. So there's two separate things that we're dealing with. So we've forwarded a resolution from the Board of Directors for the Fire District requesting county commissioners assign ASA to us. We're agreeable to that. I have Assistant Chief Damon Schultz here who can provide any supporting documents or testimony that you may have. I will say that we've been in 100% compliance of the ASA agreements that are in force in the county ordinances since we started providing ambulance service. And our goal is not to keep this forever, but to give West Valley the opportunity to seek other options, rebuild, consolidate, merge with other districts, come up with a solution that our community and that community can work well together and both have functioning emergency services departments. So that's kind of where we're at. That's our perspective in a nutshell.
Great. Thank you, Chief Warden. And we have heard feedback that folks are very impressed with the levels of service that they are getting from the tribe. So thank you for that. Commissioners, are there any questions for Chief Warden?
Well, I just want to thank you both for being here. Appreciate it, and appreciate the fact, Chief, that you're willing to step up at a difficult time. And your overriding concern has always been that you were able to deliver service to the residents in that area. And I've been very impressed with that. I also appreciate the fact that County Council has, or the way that the contract is written, is it with the acknowledgement that this is not ironclad and should West Valley want other options, that's part of the agreement. It's understood. So I appreciate that and appreciate everybody's willingness to make sure there's coverage.
Thank you, Commissioner Starrett. I agree with that. There's been many years of history behind this. And so I appreciate the language that's in there. I think it helps both sides sort of move forward. So.
Yeah, and I would just say thank you to both of you for stepping up and being there to provide the service to the people in the community. I'm very grateful for it.
And Commissioner, thank you for your service the last 4 years, and I wish you luck in the future.
Thank you. It's been my honor.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Chief.
Good to see you back here, Damon.
Appreciate it.
Chief Schultz, did you want to come up and say anything, or I can't see Chief Schultz, so just let me know. You're somewhere back there. Okay. Any further public testimony on the transfer of the ASA? Anyone online, please raise your virtual hand. Okay, hearing none. Commissioners, any questions, technical questions, clarifying questions that we might have before we close out the hearing?
No, Chair.
No, Chair.
Okay. All right. Hearing nothing further, I will close this public hearing, and we will now consider approval in the matter of an order transferring the ambulance service area number 4 franchise from West Valley Fire District to the Confederated Tribes of Grand Ronde effective January 1st of 2033. No, 2023. I just skipped ahead 10 years.
It does say 20.
It says 2033.
23.
didn't see that. That's
Yeah.
right.
Okay. Effective January 1st, 2023. Do I have a motion to approve?
Yeah, I would move that we approve item J1A with the modification of it being effective through 2020 through January, effective January 1st of 2023.
And I can just confirm that the date is correct in the board order itself,
Great.
so.
And the motion is correct.
Perfect. Okay, Commissioner Kula moves approval. Is there further discussion?
No, Chair.
Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. All opposed, same sign. Thank you, motion passes. And thank you, chiefs, for coming.
Stay safe.
Yeah, stay safe out there.
Merry Christmas.
It's going to be a busy day, it sounds like, so.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Chief's schedule is cleared after 4, so it can only start, right?
Okay, so that brings us to item K, which is announcements. Commissioners, any announcements?
Well, Chair, I just want to say that Lee Schrapel, who has been leading the cantata, the choir that's been raising funds for the YCAP Food Bank, said there's he's got a season grand total of about $26,000, and that's before the last one. And they're hoping for about $30,000 on that, and that would be a total current from 2004 to 2022, approaching $282,000. So I want to thank Lee and all of those who have participated in it to raise money for YCAP. And I also want to say thank you to Commissioner Kula. We've had a rather interesting 4 years.
I think so.
And I appreciate the fact that we've been able to pretty much work through our differences.
Yeah.
And I wish you all the best and hope that you will continue to stop by if you can ever get the back door open. But they'll let you in the front.
I'll go
door.
through the front door now.
Go through the front door.
Yeah.
But
I'll wipe my mind clean of the backdoor code.
but all the best to you.
Thank you.
And Merry Christmas to you and your family.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. And I'll say, I actually long time ago bought the cantata choir van to do deliveries. And so because Lee had moved on to using another one. And so for some reason, my vegetable farm and the cantata choir always seem to be like in my mind, connected in a really good way.
I didn't
So,
know that.
you know, they moved on to bigger and better things, and so did we, as it were, with
Oh,
our trucks.
nice.
But I want to extend my thanks too. I had a list of people really to thank, and the list is obviously too long. But I think that I like to think that the three of us have really like shown the community where they're reflected their values back to them. I was looking at the list of things that we just have consistently together approved and like gone to bat for. And it was like mental health care access and young kids. I mean, led by you, admittedly, but childcare.
Housing.
Water infrastructure, housing, really across the board in housing in every kind of type. And bridges, which I wanted to make sure our bridges were in better shape when I left. And both of you have been very supportive of that. So I'm very grateful for it. So Thank you
Thank
for
you.
that.
Thanks
Yeah,
for
I really
working so
appreciate it.
closely with Public Works and being really invested in what RIAC does and what Public Works does and
Yeah.
knowing all that road stuff.
Well, I realized that with this this like ice storm-y thing coming up with these really low temperatures, that all the areas of liaison responsibility are working together.
Mhm.
Like I think of Commissioner Bershauer as being on the law enforcement beat, as it were, and you're on the like the healthcare, you making sure that everybody is in healthcare. And I've been on the roads and emergency management, and all those are going to be out there in the community, making sure people are safe in the next, whatever, 24 hours, as it
Mhm.
were.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I did want to note that I heard that in town. And I think it's really important to make sure that in the future, the Board of Commissioners can connect with her when she's here in the future. And just like a slightly political comment, but I think it's really important.
Well, we were pretty much, we were told, or I was told that we were going to be invited to a meeting.
Yeah.
And then when that didn't happen, I assumed that you were there and we just didn't get an invitation. But I was really kind of happy to hear that not only weren't you there, but none of us were there. So it wasn't, where
Yeah.
we were singled out, but I hope we can work together. I think that's going to be really important going forward.
Well, and I think, and sorry, we're just totally talking without your chair, but the connections that Governor-elect made in the community and the conversations she heard are really like in your area, right? And so I think that she honestly, she has a lot to learn, right? About housing and childcare and healthcare provision and all that. So
And she heard whose liaison it is, and she said, "Oh, no, not doing that."
okay, we're waiting too far. No, sorry.
Sorry.
All right, Chair. That's it for me, but
Yeah.
it's been staff who, when I talk to them separately, I get kind of teary, so I'm going to avoid that.
Yeah, my instinct was that we weren't invited to the party for a reason, but I hope going forward that since we are so connected with some of these things, mental health, childcare and whatever, as she's doing that, this was her first county, I think, but as she's doing these tours, she will connect with the commissioners to have those conversations because it is very important to work together. Cantata Choir, thank you for bringing that up because I did get that note about how successful it's been as well. And the Shreeples have just been amazing. And if you've ever gone to a concert, we just went to one a couple weeks ago, they're packed and people really, really enjoy them. So thank you again for bringing that forward. Speaking of emergency management, Brian Young posted the warming, just kind of some tips for how to get through the ice storm and some where the warming shelters are and the hours of operations. So if you could share those out, that would be great. I think Commissioner Kula did. I posted one today, but he's been on top of that. So we thank him for his work. And are there any other announcements from Christian or Justin? No?
None for me.
World Cup is probably the only thing.
It's over. Isn't it over?
But it is, I mean, I
Who
had
did
it,
that?
I
Who
did have,
that?
I did have a different announcement, but I wanted to tell you that we closed on the sale of the Ford Street property to the Housing Authority earlier this week. So that's good. And we're still property with them. But yeah, since you mentioned the World Cup,
The
think we can-
storm's coming any moment now.
I think we can all agree
Probably
we
get
got an
Megan
early
out
Christmas
there.
present in that final on Sunday.
Amazing.
Really quite something. And if you
He
need more,
almost converted.
if you need more World Cups, and Ashley can appreciate this, the Rugby World Cup is next summer in France. And then also next summer is the Women's World Cup in Australia and New Zealand. So, and
And
then
as we know, the American women's team is the best.
they will be good. They should do very well. And then the European Championships come up in 2024 in Germany. So there's more soccer to come. Don't worry.
So did
Thank you. And I
Was
want to
that
say,
your parting gift to us? To bring up soccer?
I believe that Colton also has influenced things. I'd just like to note.
so thanks for that. And thank you, Casey. It's been good working with you for the last 4
Yeah,
years. So
agreed, me
Merry
too.
Christmas. That's all I had. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And yes, we want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. And this is Commissioner Kula's last session as we don't meet again until January 5th. So Commissioner Kula, thank you for your service. It is often a sacrifice to do this job. It doesn't matter what side of the political spectrum you fall on. So we wish you luck in your future endeavors and blessings to your family and your kiddos. And hopefully we see you around.
Yeah, thank you, Chair.
Merry Christmas.
And Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas.
Okay. If there's nothing else for the good of the order, I am going to adjourn the Yamaha County Board of Commissioners formal session for December 22nd, 2022. It is 11:01. Thank you, everybody.
You.
Bye.